Another question from the polio mailbag. What about the Cutter incident? If polio paralyzes because of intestines wrecked by pesticides were leaching the virus directly into the spinal column, how did a bad batch of polio vaccine cause paralysis and death? Some of you astute listeners may have also had this question about what is called the Cutter incident and something I have said about the polio shot. Because they were trying to roll the vaccine out on a massive scale, they had contracted several different laboratories to manufacture the Salk vaccine. If you don't know this, there were mainly two polio vaccines competing for the affections of the American public. The oral polio vaccine, the one that they would administer in a sugar cube, the same one you see pictures of American billionaires squeezing into the mouths of babes in India, that one came later in 1961. The first one was a shot. It was Jonas Salk's vaccine. The labs that were using his recipe occasionally had a problem with the production of the vaccine, in which the polioviruses, remember there are three types, were supposed to be killed or inactivated. We call them inactivated instead of killed because viruses are not technically alive because they can't metabolize anything and can't replicate without the help of some other living organisms. Scientists like to argue over these kinds of things online and at conventions. Anyway, the term the Cutter incident is a branding attempt to make it look like the Salk vaccine was only contaminated one time by one laboratory, Cutter Laboratories, the same company that makes the insect repellent you may have used once in your life. The Salk vaccine actually had a long-standing problem. Inactivating the poliovirus was notoriously finicky, unreliable, tricky. The poliovirus was supposed to be soaked in formaldehyde, but occasionally the virus would clump together during the manufacturing process, and the formaldehyde wouldn't reach all of it, and the inactivation process would fail. This was an open secret behind the scenes, but of course the public wasn't notified of this problem. In 1954, during the early polio vaccine trials, it took 4 weeks per batch to make sure the inactivation process was done correctly. In 1955, when the vaccine was released to the public, it took not 4 weeks, but less than 1 day. Not because of improvements in technology, mind you, but because they were in a hurry. Because of this, several different labs, not just Cutter, were manufacturing the polio vaccine, which contained live poliovirus. The Cutter incident refers to a really bad production run where this inactivation problem happened in around 120,000 doses, which was more than just one batch, and a bunch of people were paralyzed or killed. You should be thinking, if you've watched my videos, you should be thinking, but wait, poliovirus in the blood doesn't pose a problem because that's not how it gets into the spinal cord. It makes it through the gut because of cell membrane dysfunction from pesticide poisoning. Why would live poliovirus being injected into the bloodstream cause 56 people to develop paralytic polio and 5 of them to die? Well, these weren't typical polio cases. They started happening in April rather than the summer. All had happened a few days after vaccination, and all of them apparently had paralysis that started in their inoculated arm. Sounds a lot like provocation polio, doesn't it? Where sometimes the injection would drive an enterovirus of some variety that was on your skin into your nervous system, where it could sometimes migrate all the way into your spinal column. And just so you know, Salk's vaccine used the Mahoney strain, type 1 of the 3 different poliovirus types, and the Mahoney strain of polio had a special trick the others didn't. It could easily replicate in non-nervous system tissue, something the other 2 poliovirus types did not do. So if the shot itself contained live poliovirus, particularly the Mahoney poliovirus strain, or really any other virus that causes motor neuron destruction, injecting said virus directly into portions of your nervous system, which is inevitable with a shot, is not a good idea. In these cases, it wouldn't matter what state your gut was in. You were playing with fire. If the poliovirus had not been perfectly inactivated, you were essentially purposefully creating a scenario in which the virus could paralyze you. So, note to self, don't inject live poliovirus into nervous system tissue. Not a good idea. The next time someone mentions the Cutter incident to you, remind them that there was no incident. Active poliovirus within the vaccine was a long-running problem in the vaccine production amongst multiple labs and across years of vaccine production. And that is my incredible opinion.